Bonjour, je m'appelle Aris Fioretos et ça, c'est Stockholm aujourd'hui. Je suis désolé de ne pas pouvoir vous parler en votre langue. Malheureusement, franchement, mon français existe seulement comme ruine, catastrophe, embarras. Alors, pour avoir la chance de survivre dans vos yeux, je dois parler anglais. I have been asked to say a few words about my novel De fleurs et larmes, which came out in Swedish a few years ago under the title Mary and has recently been edited by Actsud in the translation by formidable Esther Sermange. The novel is set in Greece during 9 months from November 1973 until the summer of 74. That is, during the last phase of the Greek dictatorship that had begun 7 years earlier in 1967. The beginning of the end of this dictatorship were these 3 days and nights that the students at the Polytechnic University in Athens occupied campus. On the third day of this uprising, my protagonist Mary, who is a young architecture student, sees her gynecologist, who tells her that she is indeed pregnant. Elated by the surprising news, she rushes to campus in order to tell her boyfriend, Demos, who is one of the leaders of the uprising and responsible for the broadcasting system with which the students transmit the messages to people outside of campus. However, before she is able to join him, she is picked up by one of the false taxis that circulated in Athens at the time and brought to the headquarters of the secret police. During 2 weeks, she is interrogated, intimidated, even tortured by the police, who wishes to find out more about the leaders' names, addresses, and so on. Mary remains silent, seeing silence as the only way out of this ordeal. However, she also realizes that silence puts her in a dilemma, because the longer she is kept a prison, the more evident it will become that she is pregnant, and she fears that the police will force her to have the baby and then give it away for adoption, giving it to a childless couple loyal to the regime. After this period at the headquarters, she is sent together with 5 other women and also a little boy to one of the infamous prison islands that the regime has decided to open up again in the archipelago outside of Athens. The women are asked to tidy up the place, clean it for the imminent arrival of new prisoners around Christmas of 73. The story of the uprising has been told many times over in Greece by far more learned people than me. I was not so much interested in this story, which has become something of the founding myth of an entire generation, of the 68 generation in Greece, which was born with jet lag in 1973. I was attracted by what I thought might be the story behind the story. And I think that story is the one of the many women who took part in these events. And what fascinated me the most, what attracted me the most, engaged me the most, was the ways in which these women, in order to survive, had to build alliances with people they didn't know. It's known that there circulated informants among the prisoners, so they couldn't necessarily rely or trust the people they met. So how do you build up trust under such circumstances? That is, I think, the question that the book tries to ponder. And answer, or at least an indication of an answer that is given in these pages, is that of micro acts. In order to build trust, you have to begin small through gestures of generosity, of empathy, of engagement. Mere words will not do. And my book tries to describe an environment in which such micro acts are absolutely vital, absolutely necessary for survival. Mary is the student of architecture, and her thesis with which she hopes to finish her studies is devoted to how to build apartments in a democratic way in overpopulated urban areas. The model she ultimately finds for this is that of the pomegranate, a fruit which, unlike, for example, the plum or the nectarine or peach, does not contain one kernel, that is one center, but many centers, many innumerable kernels, as it were, which are all equally important and valid. No kernel is more important than the other. That is the model that she finally set us upon, and perhaps also the ideal of my novel, at least in terms of the way in which it is written. I will not tell you what ultimately happens in the book, save it to say that gradually the alternatives and the possibilities that are at her hand are slimmed, and ultimately she will face the horrible decision between her boyfriend and her yet to be born child. The last sentence of the book is in Swedish: Sakta skall hennes kropp lära sig sin sorgsna nya styrka. Merci.